Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was The Roses, opening with $6.2 million this weekend, and including the Labor Day numbers, it brings its domestic total to $8 million, and its worldwide total to $17 million. This is the third biggest opening for a comedy this year, sitting behind One of Them Days and The Naked Gun. Yeah, I didn't have much faith going into many of the newer wide releases hitting theaters this weekend, and this was one of those films that I just didn't really see the hype or the buzz. I know it's based off of a beloved comedy from back in the day, and it had quite the cast, Benedict Cumberbatch, Olivia Colman, Kate McKinnon, Andy Samberg, lots of big names in there, and I'm sure they were hoping that, with the success of other comedies this year, maybe there'd be some interest to go check it out, but I just don't think the interest for this movie was there really. I didn't see as big of a marketing push as I saw for those other movies, and it just came out of kind of the tail end of the summer, just a really lackluster weekend for movie going typically, and it wasn't able to overcome those flaws, unfortunately. And the reception hasn't been the best. It hasn't been terrible, but it hasn't been great. Critics seem to be mixed on it. It's in the mid 60s last I checked, and audiences, while liking it better, still aren't too crazy about it. It got a B+ on CinemaScore, which isn't too shabby or uncommon for a comedy, but again, compared to the other two comedies that came out this year, there's a lot to be desired. So I'm not sure how this movie's gonna hold throughout the rest of the week, as the rest of its run as we head into the fall. I just think there's a lot more promising, better looking movies that is just gonna cause this movie to get overshadowed. So yeah, not a great start for The Roses. Number 4 was Freakier Friday, making $6.6 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $82 million and its worldwide total to $132 million. Freakier Friday still holding very well. It had its best hold thus far, just falling 26%, despite the fact that it is falling a bit short of the first film, although to be fair, that's because the first film this time in its run had an insanely strong hold. My goodness, the movie's still pacing well against the first one. It's just 30 million both domestically and worldwide, believe it or not, behind where the first film ended up. So I think we'll see the movie at the very least again match where the first one ended up, which, like The Bad Guys 2, consistency is key. The word of mouth has been strong thus far. This is the big family movie to see right now, and I'm sure lots of families, or most of the families who wanted to go to the movies this weekend chose to see this to spend their Labor Day. The movie's still reaping the rewards, being the strong word of mouth, being the big family movie right now. And because of that, it has tripled its $42 million budget worldwide, definitely going to get to $150 million, and like I said, should match the $160 million worldwide total the first one made. I'm curious to see if it can reach the domestic total. I think it's going to be close. Again, just that first one, this time in its theatrical run, had a just astonishingly strong hold. 1% drop off for that movie at this point in its run. But this movie's still doing good thus far, and I can't be upset or see really anyone being upset over these numbers. The movie's still a solid hit and the big sleeper hit of the moment right now. And again, I doubt anyone is rather angry or disappointed by the movie's performance. Yeah, solid weekend for Freakier Friday. Not much more else to really add here. Number 3 was Caught Stealing, opening with $7.8 million this weekend, including the Labor Day numbers. It brings its domestic total to $9 million and its worldwide total to $15 million. Again, like The Roses, I didn't have much confidence in this movie going into it. I know Austin Butler's kind of sort of the big new name right now that they're trying to make the next leading man or something, but I just don't think this project or movie was really going to accomplish that for him, unfortunately. I didn't see a big marketing push. This movie only had one trailer. I got it a lot, but that was it, really. Nothing else other than that. A couple commercials here and there, but yeah. And as you could probably tell the interest or buzz I saw was very low or limited. I barely saw anybody talking about this movie, getting interested in it, which is a shame because apparently the movie's pretty good, at least what the critics are saying. Critics really liked it. It's like in the mid 80s from what I've seen. Audiences are not as enthusiastic, unlike The Roses, surprisingly, as it got a B on CinemaScore, which is not great for a movie like this where you want that word of mouth and reception to grow and expand and people to go, wow, this movie's actually really good. But it just doesn't seem like it's capturing audiences' attention, and it just didn't really deliver on what people were expecting. And on a budget of $40 million, this movie's going to need all the help it can get. Maybe it'll find its audience on streaming, because as we head into the fall with some pretty well, not, huge movies, but some pretty interesting stuff, especially in September, I doubt we'll see this movie get the help it needs theatrically. So yeah, another disappointing opening for this weekend. I don't see this movie turning the ship around, sadly. Number 2 was the re-release of Jaws, which made $8.1 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $282 million and its worldwide total to $492 million. This was meant to celebrate the film's 50th anniversary. That's right, folks, it's been 50 years since this shark has killed and murdered beachgoers on the big screen, and due to its legacy and popularity, many moviegoers and just fans wanted to go out and celebrate the anniversary of the original blockbuster. As I've already mentioned, this movie has set a legacy for itself. It really struck fear into a lot of moviegoers in the 70s and pretty much gave the name to the summer blockbuster, just the movie that came out and the biggest movie-going season and made a ton of money that people were not expecting it to, and now we get to watch it 50 years later as a result, which is really cool to see. So here's to you, Jaws. Happy 50th anniversary. Here's to another 50 more. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was Weapons, making $10 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $134 million and its worldwide total to $235 million. Since K-pop Demon Hunters left theaters after 2 days, Weapons is back to the top of the box office, but it's still really impressive to see this movie still remaining at the top of the food chain in regards to movie going. The fact that this movie has just showed no signs of slowing down. This horror movie about just children going missing, of all things, has really resonated the most with people. Again, in a time where we had comedies like The Naked Gun and The Roses, and kids movies like Bad Guys 2 and Freakier Friday, this has done the best out of all of them. Again, that's crazy, which goes to show you the word of mouth and reception has just been stellar with this movie. People cannot get enough of this movie, and because of that, it's about to surpass Final Destination Bloodlines to become not only the 9th biggest film of the summer domestically, but also the 2nd biggest horror film of the year, again, domestically. Worldwide, it's going to remain 3rd biggest and possibly 4th, given the other big horror movie coming out this weekend. More on that later. Since the worldwide totals for Final Destination and Sinners is still a huge bar, but still the fact that this movie has made this much this fast is still quite impressive. It's definitely going to crack 250 million worldwide, and even cracking 150 million domestically would still be an insane achievement. Again, that I don't think anyone was expecting the movie to do this much. Again, if it made 150 million worldwide at the end of its run, that would have been astounding, but here we are. It's gonna crack 250 million worldwide. It's still one of the top grossing films in America. That is just astonishing to see. Truly, this is the big surprise of the summer. Again, nobody saw this coming, and the movie is still just doing really strong thus far. Yeah, just another solid weekend for Weapons. It will be interesting to see how it does this weekend, considering the big new horror movie coming out. It'll be its first form of truly stiff competition, but given how well it's done thus far, I think it'll be able to put up a good fight, or at least as much of a fight as it can right now. So yeah, another solid weekend for Weapons. Continues to be the biggest surprise of the summer. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend, the biggest new wide release outside of Hamilton is The Conjuring Last Rites, the fourth and apparently final film in the mainline Conjuring franchise. It deals with supposedly the last of the big investigations done by the paranormal investigators who have been looking into the paranormal horror oddities that have plagued this franchise for the past couple movies. This franchise has definitely solidified itself as one of the biggest modern horror franchises of our time. People cannot get enough of these movies, so much so that they've had 2 spin-off franchises with Annabelle and The Nun. So I think this movie is really gonna do really well. Even the third one, which came out during the recovery period, still did really well given the circumstances. And I think there's a lot of hype and buzz surrounding this movie. Again, The Conjuring is just one of those horror franchises that still gets people to the theater. I mean, even look at The Nun 2, which a lot of people would argue is not a good movie, but that made a lot of money. It was very successful in going back to the mainline Conjuring franchise and billing this as like potentially the last film in the franchise. Is definitely piquing people's interest. Also, with it being fall, people are already getting into the spooky spirit of the Halloween season, and I think this will be a great way to capitalize on that, get people really into the spooky spirit of the holiday. And again, the marketing has been really solid. Been seeing lots of promos and stuff for this recently. I definitely think this is going to start off the month really strong and get theaters out of the slump they've been for these past couple of weeks. Yeah, I have a lot of expectations for The Conjuring Last Rites. I think this is going to do really well. But we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all those social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.